Lyndall, you've dedicated your life to wellness. Can you take us back a little bit about your journey to how you got here today?
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to. So I grew up in the Currumbin Valley in Queensland, so tropical rainforest, and just so happened that my geographical location of where I grew up impacted my whole career, because 3 properties away from our home was Australia's first health retreat. So at the age of 14, when I needed to do some work experience, Mum sort of ferried me up to the health retreat, and we'd actually been supplying them with bananas for many years. So it was all very familiar to me. And I went in when I was 14, and it really opened my eyes to a world of, really healthy, vibrant staff loving their work. And I thought, well, that looked really fun. Work looks fun. I'd love to go back to that. So as soon as I finished school, I went back to the health retreat and spent the next 5 years working there. And it was a really steep learning curve. I started off in the lowest paying office position and worked my way up to management. And what I had the privilege of seeing was these guests that would come in having had burnt the candle at both ends and had, chaos in their life, whether that was physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And what I saw was wellness was the platform that gave everyone back that sense of equilibrium. And so I found that to be really powerful, because no matter what the guests' objectives were, wellness was the platform that gave everyone that reset and that way forward and that pathway forward. So for me, it solidified what I'd grown up with. It was just an extension of that at work. So I did that for 5 years, and it was really quite incredible, learning with some amazing wellness pioneers as well. And then, I guess the next seed that was planted for me was, how do we help our guests keep these results to be long-term? Because they come up for that 1 week a year and perhaps struggle on those other weeks. It was like 1 week of good and the rest perhaps not so. And so I was like, well, how do we now create the long-term wellness? Because, for me, wellness really is a lifestyle, is a way of life. It's not just a once-off week of the year. And so I looked to create an urban retreat and, a place where our guests could go after the health retreat to continue on with what they had learnt. And I looked at, most of our guests were coming from either Melbourne or Sydney, so perhaps where the main stress areas were. And I decided on Melbourne. So 27 years ago, a Queenslander doesn't normally move to Melbourne. Took the plunge and moved to Melbourne and started Aurora Spa, a retreat, and that was in St Kilda. And so we were there for 25 years, really creating that urban base for our guests to continue on with their wellness. Because when I did the research, there were plenty of people from health retreats that needed to continue on with their wellness journey, but plenty of guests that didn't want to go to a destination retreat as well. They just wanted to go somewhere monthly, with that sense of balance and equilibrium. So it sort of worked really well with both of those guests in mind. And, during that journey, I was hand mixing products to use on our guests, because it was all about, the health retreat had been having the guests for 6 days, and now I had them for 60 minutes. So it flipped the way we treated our guests and needed to get maximum results in the minimum amount of time. Had to get into that city mindset of how do we do this quickly. And so I was hand mixing products and then using that on the guests, because they were, very therapeutic. And it was the day a guest asked me if he could buy some of the products that I put some body cream in a Ziploc bag and gave it to him. And that was when I decided to create a product range as well. So the Spa product range was created as being that in-spa therapeutic product that really helped create that wellness journey. And then for me, the dots all connected at that point, because there's that destination retreat you could go to annually for your wellness. You could come back and see us monthly or weekly, whatever that looked like, and then use the product daily. So there was the full circle of self-care for our guests, because what I experienced in the health retreat was a lot of burnout. A lot of people going, pushing their body physically or mentally right to the end. And it's a long recovery. And, for people that are high achievers, a really frustrating one as well. So it was about, how do we really help people avoid burnout? And then during that journey, our Aspar products were Mecca, Sephora, and then on board with Qantas as well in first class, business class, chairman's lounge, and then across all of the lounges globally. So we managed the spas in Melbourne and Sydney, as well as the Versace spa. So it's been lots of different things going on through that journey. I also had the privilege of writing 4 books on the topics of wellness as well. So there's a lot of different areas that come into my life, but essentially it's all about self-care and how we help prioritize wellness and avoid burnout. And that's been the first part of my chapter.
Yeah, that's chapter 1, a very long and impressive chapter. That's amazing, Lyndall, what great stuff you've been already achieving. And so then moving into bathing and the ritual of bathing, how did that sort of then come into your journey as well?
Growing up in Queensland, in the Currumbin Valley, my weekends were spent in pristine, amazing water in the rock slides, the beautiful natural formed rock slides. So I always had water as a big part of my life. But so about 25 years ago, I did a trip where I visited 60 spas in 6 weeks around the world. It was a good marathon, the right sort of marathon for me. And that was incredible to see all the culture of spas in different continents and different places around the world, and to really see how the spa culture has evolved. And for me, the European spa culture was what I was most inspired by. And so the bathing side, how that came into my life, well, I guess, having those experiences was really quite life-changing. And then I thought, at some point in my career, it would be really wonderful to be able to have that as a part of my world. And when I really did a lot more research into bathing, the Romans have been bathing for centuries, and this is a part of what they believe is to be great for physical health and mental health. And, in the old Roman bathhouses, they were going there, yes, to relax, but also for social reasons and even business. And they're actually called thermes in Europe. So you're looking for sort of thermes when you're visiting all of these different bathhouses. And there's so many that are dotted around Europe. They're quite incredible, and they're all quite different depending on what country they're in. If you look at the culture of sauna, where that started, that's more than 2,000 years old. And, in Finland, which is where it originated, the culture of using saunas was really used to cleanse and detoxify. It was actually always paired with rolling in the ice or jumping in some water. Now we call that contrast therapy. But back, when they were starting with saunas in Finland, that was always a part of how they used their sauna. And again, they see the benefit of that to the body of detoxifying and cleansing. And then you look at the contrast bathing, which is what you see more of now, when you are, going from the hot to cold, and the benefits of that, there's enough science around now to show that it's a worthwhile investment of your time. In fact, it's a really great investment of your time because you get the results so quickly. And, when you're doing your contrast therapy and you're moving from hot to cold, you're really increasing lymphatic flow, circulation, and, strengthening your immune system and really helping that detoxification process. So there's so much benefit and now so much science to back it up that these ancient rituals really have a place in our modern world, especially with the level of stress that we see people at, because mentally, they can really help as well.
So obviously visiting those bathing places overseas, 60 in how many? 6 weeks?
60 in 6 weeks.
What great inspiration then for the beautiful place you've created now at Aurora. Can you talk a little bit about how you started that one?
Yes. So I had the opportunity to build it from blank canvas. So that was really wonderful, and what a privilege, because I guess the way I approached it is if I had the opportunity to build another spa, I would want bathing to be a big part of it because I know how impactful it is. And having had these experiences, I've had many different impactful experiences in different bathhouses around Europe. And so I thought, imagine if you could create this a uniquely Australian version of a bathhouse. And when I started Aurora back 27 years ago, no one knew what a spa was. They thought that I was building like a bathtub with bubbles, because there was plenty of spas in Europe and plenty in the US, but none actually here. So our spa culture is very young, which is why it's great to lean on those ancient rituals that are in Turkey with the hammams, Japan with the onsens, and then the European style of bathing as well. So it was all about, what a privilege to be able to create this bathing journey. So I really have crafted a bathing sequence, an 11-step sequence that the guest goes through, starting with our Australian sea salts and grapefruit body cleanse to start with, being that salt scrub to get rid of all the dead skin, but also because we're in magnesium pools, it's absorbing the magnesium transdermally as well. So it's a great way to start. And then you've got, your daydream pool with your air beds, then going into the cold plunge to really give that circulation a boost and to increase metabolism as well. Metabolic health gets stimulated by cold water, works on activating that brown fat. So that's a really wonderful thing, even though it can be uncomfortable. We want people to be comfortably uncomfortable in the cold plunge. And we've got our reflexology pool that has the stones in the base of the pool to work on the pressure points of the feet. And you've got our thermal lounges where you can take a rest, and they're sort of at that 39 degrees. The vitality pool, and this has different features to the daydream pool, but you've got your stand-up massage pods, your swan neck massage jets. So the idea with the swan neck massage jets is that you feel like you've had a massage by the time you've done the bathhouse, but you've had it in a way that's curated by you and how your body feels at that point in time. And then once you've finished bathing in the pools, there's the whole thermal suite where you journey through the aroma steam. So that's great for that humid heat and the aroma as well, the inhalation. Nordic sauna, again, great for detoxification, sweating out all of those unwanted toxins. Halo therapy, where you're inhaling microparticles of pharmaceutical grade salt. So this is really great for respiratory health. So anyone that has asthma, long COVID, any sort of respiratory issues, basically the salt is going in, it's antibacterial and antiviral, and helping to remove things that aren't meant to be there. And then there's our unique little glacial mist room, which the vision behind this one was to be in a room that feels like you're standing on an alpine mountain. So you've got this beautiful aroma infused into the water. You've got ice in there. It's about 6 degrees, so it is a chill room. And then if you want more of that ice warrior, you can press the button and have rain and then have wind as well. So you can have the level of uncomfortableness that sits with you as well, but you can use that as your contrast therapy to your sauna or to the aroma steam. So there's 11 really significant steps, and I've experienced them all in different parts of the world, and it's just bringing it all together so that when a guest finishes that experience, they feel like their nervous system has been switched off, because we are in an era where there is information overload and decision fatigue, and so by having a technology-free zone in our bathhouse, it really gives you that time to switch off that nervous system and just refuel and give your mind and body a rest. So that's the bathhouse component. We have 8 treatment rooms as well, where we have a range of different spa treatments available, and a float room where you've got a whole float dedicated to sensory deprivation. So the reason you would do this one is an hour in the float room is equivalent to 4 hours of sleep. So particularly for pregnant women, it's fantastic because they can't use the bathhouse. There's too many variations in temperature. So the float room is a great, if you've got sore back or you've got issues with sciatica, it can be really weightless because you're lying in 550 kilos of Epsom salts, so you're buoyant on the water. So when I go into the float, I sleep. So you go into quite a deep sleep, which is really restorative. So that's the menu.
That's what's on the menu. That's amazing. The 11 steps, Lyndall, are they all drawn from inspiration from around the world, or have you sort of created some of your own?
Yeah, no, definitely created our own as well, because we wanted to make it unique to our culture. Because when I started in St Kilda, no one knew what a spa was, and then when we opened down here, it sort of was deja vu in that no one knew what a bathhouse was, and everyone sort of thought, oh, is it just a sauna with the spa treatment rooms, or is it just a bath? And so it's been a big piece of, really letting the Australian market know what a bathhouse is and how you can get the most benefit out of it as well, and what that looks like. So, it's definitely being crafted with our market in mind, like the exfoliation to start with, and the journey of making it, almost like a figure eight when you're going through. So, no, there's the chill room's completely unique. And yes, there's plenty of saunas. The Finns have been doing it for 2,000 years, but we have our own unique take on how we're doing a lot of the different elements.
It's absolutely fantastic, and I love going to the bathhouse. So thank you, Lyndall.
Well, you've been there in person. Now you've
journey. I really enjoyed the sensory shower.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention those.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the sensory showers, it's just about how we give that complete sensory experience. And you'll notice that there's an aroma in the bathhouse. So there's a different level of sensory experience that's been very thoughtfully curated through the whole experience. But the sensory showers take it to the next level, because you can choose your temperature, you can choose your jet, you can have a bucket on your head if you like, and then the oils are infused into that water. So it's really making that sort of shower experience into a spa experience and taking it to another level. Did you do the bucket on your head?
I did the bucket on my head, and I chose cold water, and I got quite a fright, but it was it was an amazing way to end. I went straight into the Nordic sauna after that, so it was nice.
Yeah, so the sensory showers are, really unique, and there's some amazing technology around the world, in America and in Europe, because these bathhouses have been around for so long. And to give you an example, there's a bathhouse in Rome that would be 3 times the size of ours, and where we have one sauna, they've got 5, and there's different takes on these everywhere around the world. But it's really looking at our culture and what we do well. And the spas that really impacted me and the bathhouses that impacted me was Thermavals in Switzerland. It's one of the pioneering bathhouses of its time, and architecturally, Peter Zumthor is known for that project. It's in a beautiful little ski village. The stone is from the mountain, the water is pumped from the mountain, and the different bathing experiences are just mind-blowing. It's incredible, and still to this day stands as one of the best bathhouses in the world. So to go to that, 25 years ago was like, wow. You can put your ears under the water, and there's music that's been composed by the local musicians, and you're swimming through these sort of granite caves to get to the next pool. They're incredible. So there's lots of different versions, but I think ours has been crafted with the Australian market in mind and what I thought they were ready for. 27 years ago, the spa was sort of what the market was ready for, and now it's the next step. So ideally, all of our guests are experiencing the bathhouse, and some will just do that, and that's perfect, or add it onto a treatment. Because when you have the bathhouse first, it's like the warm-up to the workout. The workout is perhaps the massage, but you've done the warm-up by having all your muscles, by the heat, by the magnesium, and by the jets. And then you've got your thermal suite. So the therapists find that the muscles are just the tissues in such a great place, ready to be worked on. You get more out of your treatment.
That makes so much sense too. You do leave the bathhouse feeling so relaxed. It would be the perfect time to have a massage straight after it, actually. You'd probably fall asleep.
Yes, but you could do that next time.
Going back into the bathhouse, Lyndall, the contrast therapy is amazing. And I know you had suggested that you sort of cycle between the two, which I found amazing, and you do build up a bit of you can get longer and longer in the cold plunge. Can you talk a bit about the benefits of contrast therapy?
Absolutely. So if we're thinking about moving from our hot to vasodilation to vasoconstriction of our blood, it's actually getting the circulation pumping. So we're actually creating a lot more circulation, which enhances lymphatic flow. And so that helps strengthen our immune system. There's so much benefit in also mental resilience of pushing ourselves to be a little bit uncomfortable. As when you go into the water, ideally it's between 10 and 15 degrees, and that is enough to get you benefit. You can certainly go less as well, but most people cope with that sort of 10 to 15. We sit around 8 to 10 degrees. And so you want to have that gasp when you go in. You want to, be almost caught by surprise by how cold it is. And ideally, you're just working your way up. You might start with 30 seconds in the cold plunge, but you're getting to ideally 1 to 3 minutes in the cold plunge. And then coming out of there, you're going into the sauna. And the sauna could be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. And so you've got that heat and that sweating being activated. And then what's really important is the rest. So it's then, the thermal lounges, which are radiating at 39 degrees, they're a great place to rest in between because you want to have that sort of sense of equilibrium before you keep going into the hot and cold. So you can start in the hot or the cold. Most people prefer to start in the hot because it's a little bit easier. So you're sweating it out and you're having your sort of 10 to 15 minutes and you just need to rinse off. And then straight into the cold plunge for your sort of 1 to 2 minutes, and then rest on the beds. But you can do it also, it doesn't just have to be at Aurora, of course. There's plenty of different ways that you can have your cold plunge just by bringing one element in, which is still going to be really beneficial for you. And that can be every day when you have your shower. You can finish with cold. So you could start with your sort of 30 seconds of cold and then work your way up to 60 or 90 seconds. You're not going to have the full cold immersion, but like you will in the pool, but still going to have great benefit for you as well. But when you're able to do the hot and the cold and the rest, that's when you get the most benefit. So the best use of your time.
Do you have to go all the way under in the cold pool?
You don't have to, no. So the more you go under, the more benefit you're going to get. So yes, it is great if you can. The way I do it is always keep my shoulders under. And if I'm in water under 10 degrees, I like to keep my hands out. So it doesn't matter, I just keep them in prayer position because when I was at a health retreat once, there was a monk actually in the cold plunge and he talked to me afterwards about his focus on his breathing. And he said, just keep your hands out and focus on your breathing because we're putting ourselves under good stress. And this is where, in another episode, we'll talk about stress in a lot more detail. But this is an opportunity to really build our mental resilience. As we live in a world where we're pretty comfortable, right? And we don't get that many opportunities to build our resilience in a positive way and put yourself in a stressful situation where there's benefit. And so every time you go to your edge, you're building a little more. And like going to the gym, you don't go to the gym and just do the same thing every day. You're actually going and building on your strength, or you're building on your cardio, whatever it is that your objective is. It's a little like that with the cold plunge. You come in and you do your 30 seconds. Your next round, you might do a minute. And before you know it, you might be at 3 minutes. You might really surprise yourself.
It is. You can't think about anything else though when you're in that pool other than breathing. So I think that's a great way to switch off too.
It's that point where, you really want to focus on that, diaphragmatic breath coming from the belly so that your body knows you're safe. When our shallow, when you get people and you do hear them in the bathhouse where they get in and they squeal of the cold, and that's where they're shallow breathing, and that's where you just got to come back and really focus on the deep breaths, and we help sort of tutor them through and guide them through the process of getting the most benefit out of it. And I think with the contrast therapy, and it's all about how do we give people the maximum benefit in the minimum amount of time to really help their health and wellness. And the Europeans come and bathe regularly, and we often have guests come in. We recently had a guest who her husband was homesick, and he's Italian, and she brought him into the bathhouse and he felt like he'd been home, which is the biggest compliment I could ever get. And they said to us, this is what we used to do every week. That's a part of the culture. Whereas I guess for me, the education piece with our culture is it's not just a treat. It's not just a once a year. I mean, I remember you saying after you'd been in, you thought, why don't I do this more often?
Seriously, it's the first thing I thought, because it isn't a lot of your time in the scheme of things, and the benefit of it. And I think it's like anything. It's like massage, whatever, you go when something's sore, or you get a voucher or whatever. It's not so much something that you put into your everyday lives or weekly or monthly or whatever, and it should be, because it's so fantastic.
It's really carving that time out of the diary and just making it an appointment like you would going to the doctor or doing something that you have to do. So I think, regular visits is going to give you much more benefit, and that's what we see with our guests. The guests that are booking monthly and being in that regular rhythm get a lot more benefit from going into the bathhouse.
And it's just prioritising your wellness.
Correct.